Let's make some plant-based upside-down cinnamon rolls just like my grandma used to make. Welcome back to the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, where we make plant-based cooking easy. I'm Jill, and today we're making these amazing ooey gooey upside-down cinnamon rolls with pecans. This is a recipe that our supporting member community has been asking for forever, and it's taken me forever to get it just right. So we're going to jump right in. First, we're going to proof our yeast. So I'm going to put about a teaspoon of date paste, and we're using Date Lady date paste. We just need a little something that has a sugary substance to it to activate the yeast. That's what the yeast eats, and that's how it expands. And then I've got a cup of lukewarm water. You definitely want to make sure that it's not too hot. You can test it on this part of your wrist, you know, just like you would a baby's bottle. And if it feels too hot, then it's too hot. So you let it cool off just a little bit, because that will kill the yeast. Then we're doing a tablespoon and a half of yeast, and this is just the Red Star active yeast. I'm going to stir it just a little bit. Make sure we get all of that yeast, you know, down off of the sides into the water. And now we're just going to let it sit. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes for it to proof fully, and then we'll add our other ingredients. Now that our yeast is proofed, then we're going to add our 2 other ingredients here. And today I'm using an organic whole wheat stone ground flour, non-GMO. It's really important if you're going to be eating whole wheat flour to get something that's a really good quality whole wheat flour. Sorry, gluten-free people out there, this is not a gluten-free recipe, and I don't really have an alternative for you. The gluten-free flours, for me, it just doesn't really make the texture of a cinnamon roll that I remember. So I'm going with the whole grain. So I've got 2½ cups here of the flour. And then we need just a little bit of salt. So I'm going to use about a ½ teaspoon of salt. And then we're just going to stir this together, and you're just going to keep stirring it until it all sticks together. And then we're going to put it out onto our countertop, and we're going to knead it a little bit. So you want to make sure that your countertop is really nice and clean, and that your hands are really clean. So we just do this until it sticks into a ball, roughly. You get all of that good stuff in there before we put it out onto the countertop here. Okay, just gonna plop it out here. Make sure I get all of that off the walls. You're gonna set this bowl aside because we're gonna use that once we're done kneading. We're gonna put this back into that bowl for it to proof or rise. All right, so we're just gonna keep kneading. And if you haven't ever made bread before, really it's just you're kind of pushing away and then folding, pushing away and folding. And if you feel like it's a little bit too sticky or it's really sticking to your hands, that does go away after a while, but you can always sprinkle just a little bit of flour. You don't want to overdo it with the flour because the dough then will get really a little too stiff, and your cinnamon rolls won't be nice and fluffy. So you want to really be minimal with how much extra flour you add. So I'm going to knead this for about 3 minutes or so, and I'll show you what it looks like so that you know when you're done. While we're waiting for that, I'd like to share some background on our show. The Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show is crowd-funded, which means these free weekly recipe videos, along with our entire catalog of free printable recipes on our website, plantbasedcookingshow.com, and our Plant-Based Cooking Made Easy cookbook series, are all made possible in part by the generous patronage of our supporting membership community. So if you love our recipes, I invite you to join us on our mission to make plant-based cooking easy, and follow the link in the description to become a supporting member today. Okay, let's get back to the show. Okay, so now we're done kneading. If you want to come in and take a look, if you feel that, you can really feel it with your hand. It just feels like smooth and kind of satiny, and you can just tell that's what you want it to be like before you put it in your bowl. So then we're just going to put this in our bowl. And then you're going to drape a towel over it. just like that. And you're just gonna leave it on your countertop until it doubles, which is about roughly 45 minutes, but you know, that depends on the temperature of your house and wherever you live in, in that temperature. So just roughly until it's about doubled in size. And then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so our dough is doubled in size. So now we're gonna do the next step, which is putting the pecans in the bottom of a pan. This is just a 9-inch cake pan. You can use a 9-inch pie plate or a metal cake pan, but you want to line it with parchment paper because this will probably stick to it pretty bad. So this is 1 cup of pecans that have just lightly roasted on 350 for about 5 minutes. Watch them really carefully because they do burn really quick. So just watch them. We're just going to sprinkle this into the bottom of the pan and just kind of smooth them out a little bit, spread them out. And then we're making this delicious caramely gooey stuff. So this is the way my grandma used to make her cinnamon rolls. She'd do them upside down, just like an upside down pineapple cake. But it was typically butter and brown sugar in the bottom, but that is not what we're using. We are going to use, this is 1/4 cup of water, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. It's just to give it a little bit of creaminess, a little bit of fat, and then 1/3 cup of date paste, or date syrup, I'm sorry. And we're using date syrup, obviously, because it comes from dates. It's not a refined sugar, and it's very low on the glycemic index, so it shouldn't spike your blood sugar. Okay, now we're just going to mix this mixture together. I've just got a fork so I can kind of break up the peanut butter while I go. You could whisk it too, that would work. You just want to get, you know, the peanut butter incorporated so there's no big clumps of peanut butter. And that just takes just a couple minutes to get that going. All right, so now we're just going to pour that over the pecans. We still got a couple little chunks in there, it's okay. And kind of make sure that that liquid is spread out a little bit onto the bottom. Okay. All right, I'm gonna get the dough and then we're gonna roll it out and I'll show you how to make the cinnamon rolls. Beans are an essential part of a whole food plant-based diet and should feature prominently in our daily menu. We love finding new and convenient ways to get our servings in. Wellbean is a tasty and wholesome way to get half a serving of beans in every bar. Wellbean bars are vegan and gluten-free with no preservatives and no added salt, sugar, or oil. Each bar is made only from an assortment of beans, fruits, nuts, and seeds. As a special deal for our viewers, follow the link in the description and use the code PlantBasedEasy at checkout to save $5 off a variety pack because life is better with beans. There's no denying the plant-based diet is a nutrient powerhouse, but did you know there are a handful of hard-to-get nutrients even well-crafted diets are often lacking? The latest research suggests that complementing your diet with a few specific vitamins, minerals, and omega-3s will help boost your energy and keep you thriving for the long term. That's why my daily health routine includes Complement Essential. Complement Essential contains the 8 critical nutrients lacking from most plant-based diets in dosages optimized specifically for us. Plus, Complement is completely transparent about ingredient sourcing and third-party testing, publishing the results directly on their website. As a special discount for our viewers, just use code PlantBasedEasy at checkout to save 15% off of your order. Okay, here it is. Here's the dough. It is ready. It has doubled in size. Now I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour onto my countertop. So again, countertop needs to be really nice and clean. You just need to spread a little bit, or if you have a pastry board, you could do it on a pastry board too. That would work great because then you don't have to dirty up your countertop. We're just going to plop this out on there. Make sure you get all of that out of your bowl. Okay. And then I typically I kind of mound it a little bit into kind of roughly a rectangle shape because we're going to make it into about a 10-inch by 16-inch rectangular shape. Okay, You can put some of that on the, so a little bit of flour on the top so it's not so sticky, and on your rolling pin. And then just keep that there because you might need a little bit extra. So you're just going to roll it out until you get about that shape, or roughly that size, the 10 by 16. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be exact, but you want it to be, you want it to have at least that size because we're trying to fill this pan. So if you don't get quite a large enough rectangle rolled out, then your rolls won't be quite large enough to fill the pan. Okay. And it'll be pretty thin, you know, it'll probably be about a quarter, probably less than a quarter of an inch thick, really. Okay, set that aside. And now here we go again. We've got date paste again, or date syrup again. This is 1/4 cup. We're just gonna pour it onto there. And this, it's the same as the bottom. It's in place of, typically this would be a lot of butter and a lot of brown sugar. So this kind of gives it that kind of flavor. It's sweet and it's got that kind of caramely dark color like brown sugar. And then you're just going to spread it out with your knife gently so you don't tear into your dough. I'm going almost out to the edge. And you want to kind of leave your ends the long way. You want to leave your ends a little bit free so you don't get the date syrup quite on the ends. Okay, there we go. And then I have about 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. That, and of course that is up to you how much cinnamon you use. If you like really cinnamony cinnamon rolls, you just go for it, which is kind of what I like. I like a lot of the cinnamon flavor. So that would be the 2 tablespoons. Okay. And then I have about 1/2 cup of raisins, which is also completely optional. You don't have to put these in here, but I just feel like it gives it a little bit more moisture, or it makes the rolls a little bit more moist. Because this is a whole wheat flour, and a stone ground whole wheat flour tends to be a little bit dry. So anything we can do to kind of help raise that moisture level a little bit. Because when these soak up some of that date syrup and they get nice and hot, they kind of swell up inside of the cinnamon roll. Okay. Now to roll it. This is a little bit of a tricky part here. So when you start rolling, we're rolling the short side. So we're going the whole length of it. And it might still stick to your table, but I just kind of take my hand like this and I press down a little bit with this hand just to roll. And I keep just like wedging it forward. You could use a spatula or something too, that would work. Just takes a little patience so that you don't tear the dough. And again, you could probably put a little bit more flour on your surface, but then it doesn't, it kind of slides around a bit, and it makes the rolls more dry, which is not what we want. Okay. I'm trying to kind of roll it uniformly so it doesn't get too fat on one side. Got a little hole there. And then when you get almost to the end, this is why you don't want date syrup on the end, because you're going to kind of lift it up a little bit and you're going to pinch it into the roll so it kind of seals, so that when you're cutting them and picking them up, they don't unroll on you. Okay. I'm going to roll it this way a little bit. All right. Now, you need a really sharp knife, and we are going to cut about 1.5 inch pieces, which you can measure if you want, but I can just eyeball it, and you're kind of doing a sawing motion, and you're sawing it because if you just press straight down, you're going to flatten out your roll, and all of the little swirls in it are going to kind of stick together. So you just want to kind of just gently saw so that it doesn't smush it. And you want to get them pretty even in size, because you want it to be all uniform height in your pan, so that when you flip it over, it's all kind of a uniform size. All right, so that odd one on the end, that odd little one, I'm going to plop that in the center. And then you take them just one at a time. Be very careful so you don't tear them open. And it just depends on how many you have to place them evenly around in your pan. It's kind of a little math problem here. Okay, 1, 2, and 1, 2. That worked perfect. And if yours are a little bit higher than the others, you can kind of press it down a little bit, just gently. So mine made 7 rolls. Okay, there we go, just like that. So you're going to do the same thing as like what we did before. You're just going to cover this loosely with a towel, and we're going to leave it here until that has doubled. So about 45 minutes, about the same time. Okay, well, I let them rise for a while, and here they are. So if you saw before when I was pulling them out and putting them in the pan, sometimes they look a little raggedy, but once they puff out like this, you're really not going to see that. And it's going to be flipped over, so you're not going to see this side of things at all. So now off to the oven. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees, and we're going to stick them in for 25 minutes. All right, they are out of the oven. They look great. So now we're going to flip it. So the easiest way is to get whatever you're going to put them on, and you put it over your pan. Boy, this is still going to be really hot. Cross your fingers. I hope this works. It doesn't fall apart. Okay, and one quick flip. Okay. Make sure that's loose. Loose, loose. Oops, it's a little off center. Ooh, that's still really hot. All right. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Oh, it smells so good. Yum, yum, yum. So come on in and take a look at that. Yum. All right, so I'm going to let this cool for a few minutes, and then I'll meet you at the table for a taste. All right, it is time for a taste. Look at that. Still nice and warm and gooey. Okay, let's go in for a taste here. I like to eat mine by taking off one of the rings, peeling out the outside ring. Ooh, it's hot. Here's some of the pecans. So delicious. Not overly sweet, just perfect. You're gonna love it. So come on back next week for another great recipe.